Yo, 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 what is good, ladies and gentlemen? It is another wonderful episode of SelzSpeaks podcast. You already know what it's about. It's about bringing impact, stories that we could benefit from, ways that we can learn. And today I have a beloved guest of mine. It is my mother in love, my wife's mother, play on words, mother in law, mother in love. And we have amazing conversations. She is very, very new to the podcast space, very, very new to speaking in front of a whole bunch of people in this context. So I'm gonna just kind of help her along and we're gonna get her comfortable. But I definitely think that there's so much value and so much wisdom that we can learn from her experiences that I was like, yo, why not put on the podcast? Let's make it happen. So, mom, we gonna do quick fire questions. So where are you from? Where were you born?
I was born in Port-au-Prince, Haiti.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, and actually, we lived in the seminary, the Adventist seminary in Haiti. So it was like a
Okay.
very close knit family and stuff like that. So that's where I was around. I was born there and we grew up there.
Got you, got you. How old were you when you came to the States?
I was 15 years old when I came to the United States.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad decided that, hey, he wanted all his girls to be safe. So he decided to, so actually, we are four sisters and a brother. So he said,
Okay.
I have to bring my girls to the United States of America because I need them to get a very good education and to make sure that
Mm-hmm.
they come out right, or Haitian
Mm-hmm.
parents.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right. And how old were you when you came?
Again, I was 15 years old when I came.
15. Got you. 15.
15.
Okay. And then
I
what
was
state was that? That was Massachusetts, New York?
um, funny. In December 1977, we came to New York. We came via Kennedy Airport,
Right,
and I
right.
remembered my dad saying, "We're not staying in New York. New York is not safe enough for my girls." So my dad decided that he was going to move to Massachusetts, to a little town called South Lancaster, so way off the
Nice.
map. But that's where we all grew up.
Got it. Got it. And so now
Lancaster.
let's fast forward. How did you end up marrying the love of your life? Like when did that happen? Give us a little bit about that.
Oh my goodness. That's a long, long story. Are you ready for it?
Now we're gonna take the short one. We're gonna take the short one.
Sure. I remember praying for a mate, and I really, really did pray. And then some people believe in dreams, some do not. But
Mhm.
I'm going to tell you my own experience. And I remember um, telling the Lord, I said, Lord, I'm not going to choose anyone anymore. It's going to be
Mhm.
up to you.
Right,
And
right.
you know what I like. And that night, I remember sleeping and I had a dream. And I found myself in front of a church. And there was a young man that I was dating. And I saw that young man pulling me out of the church. And I saw my husband now, and which somebody I've never talked to. I've seen
Mhm.
him, and I saw him pulling me inside the church. So I was in a tug of war, kind
Right.
of fight. Somebody was pulling me out of the church, and my husband now was pulling me in the church.
Got
And
you.
as I was waking up, I didn't hear anything, but I felt I got up with the assurance that he was going to be my husband. And sure enough, within the same week, I met him and we started talking.
Nice, nice. And now you've been married for just about how long now?
I've been married for 34 years.
Wow, 34
It's 34
years.
years. This February 26th will be 34 years.
Wow, wow.
Yeah.
So this is not a marriage. This is not a marriage podcast. But just real quick, what
Yeah.
was your, if you had to say your secret or your foundation, like what do you think was the thing that you held to that brought you to 34 years?
Oh, my experience with God. my
Mm-hmm.
belief in him that no matter what I go through, whatever ups or downs or whatever it is, I could always go back to my Heavenly Father. And it's almost like he held my hand throughout.
Mm-hmm.
Because, yes, my husband is a very good man, but we've had a lot of experiences that really would destroy a family if we did not have that faith in God.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot
And
has
you know
happened.
what?
Mhm,
I love that answer because that leads us to, the topic of this whole podcast, which we kind of talked
mhm,
off on air, but that's why I
mhm.
decided to title this episode the crucibles of a pastor's wife. Because I feel like
Yeah.
your situation, I've seen my father in love kind of, be sick. I've seen him in higher spirits. I've seen him go through church turmoil, just so many different ups and downs. And a lot of
Yeah.
times I think in ministry, we sometimes focus on, the pastor, and unfortunately the family gets forgotten. And in
Yes.
that whole dynamic too,
Mhm,
the person that is tends to carry the family is the wife, is the mother, who's really doing a lot of the heavy lifting. So I think there's a story there that often goes untold, not necessarily purposefully, it just
mhm.
happens that way. And I think that's something we wanted to kind of highlight in this episode. So, when we talk about the crucibles of a pastor's wife, like, let's start at the beginning. Did you ever even see yourself as a pastor's wife before you even married a relationship? Like, was that something that's like, oh, I could do this? Or like when your friends would joke, you'd be like, no way, there's no way I want to be a pastor's wife.
Can you believe it? I remember as I was growing up, I said to the Lord, I said, Lord, I do not want to be a pastor's wife, and I do not want to be a doctor's wife.
Oh.
I
Okay, why a doctor's
remember,
wife? Because a lot of people want to be doctor's wives.
oh no, whatever. It looks glamorous, but
Mm-hmm.
the family, you know, at the very beginning, they do suffer. To me, they do
Mm-hmm.
miss. I mean, the husband has to be away, taking a lot of long classes and stuff like that. Because when I was working at the hospital, and I saw a lot of the interns
Right.
and residents, spending so much time at the hospital, and some of them, you said, oh, they value the little time they could spend with their family. To me,
Right.
that
Right.
was time taken away from the family. I
Right.
wanted to
Right.
have like a steady person. You work a 9 to 5 job and you come home
Mm-hmm.
in families together. With a
Wow.
pastor as well, to me, it's like a lot of time is taken away from the family because they
Right.
have to be out there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's okay. So now you go from being in a place where you were praying to God to not marry a pastor, and yet now the person that he introduces to you in your dream is a pastor. Like, are you kind of like at this point with God, like, God, I don't want to do this? Are you like, okay, God, I'm gonna trust you? Like, what makes you actually move forward in going in the thing that you actually didn't want?
You know what? I had asked the Lord, I said, Lord, I'm not going to choose a man,
Mm-hmm.
and you know what I like. I love well, the appearance, the physical appearance that I was looking for, tall,
Mm-hmm.
dark, and
Mm-hmm.
handsome guy, and what have you. But I remember I had asked the Lord to take control of that He was going to choose for me, that I was not going to choose. The Lord
Yeah.
chose him for me, and I said, "May Your will be done." Basically, may His will be done, and I have accepted it. You
Mm.
know, the key thing
So
was
then,
acceptance. Hmm.
so then let me ask you this.
Hmm.
So tell us, like, okay, you are now a pastor's wife.
Hmm.
How did it start? Would you say, and when I say how did it start, I
Hmm.
already know that's already a challenging position. Was it
Hmm.
challenging right out the gate? Did it get more challenging in the middle? Did it get challenging more towards the latter half? Like, guide us through that whole journey, or at least like when do you feel like it was like, okay, hold on, I'm about to be in it now.
That's a very, very good question. Has it been easy at a certain given time? I think every step, every part of my life had its own challenges. As I got married in my 20s, as I went into my 30s, it has its challenges. As I
Mm-hmm.
went to my 40s, it has its challenges. And as I went to my 50s, it has its challenges.
Mm-hmm.
And as I learned, as I grew, of course, my my outlook changed, meaning
Mm-hmm.
that it wasn't like, oh God, why me? But I took on the challenges. It came and I live and I then I go through it. I don't know if I'm making sense.
Mm-hmm.
In my 20s, I remember, I did not have I prayed. But I remember sometimes my dad telling me, you guys, you think that being a Christian means this, and that. No, 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 no. It's some you have to grow. But boy,
Mm-hmm.
did I grow. You
Mm-hmm.
know, in my early 30s, I lost my mom,
Mm-hmm.
and that really, really put a big hole into my heart,
Mm-hmm.
and I had to go up fast because I relied on my mom for prayer. I relied on her for wisdom and knowledge. I relied on
Yeah.
my mother for everything.
Right.
And right now at my early 30s, I had lost everything. That's how I viewed it.
Yeah.
And I remember praying, and the Lord is telling me, no, 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 no. You don't have to depend on your mom to have your prayers answered. You depend
Mm-hmm.
on me. And he sent me the verse that one morning I woke up with that verse in my mind. It says, "Come boldly to the throne of grace to obtain mercy." That means I didn't have to rely on somebody else's prayer for God to answer me. And that was
Mm-hmm.
the beginning of my walk with God.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I remember, way in my 30s, I needed to have that communion with him. I didn't know God the way I do now. I still have some ways to go,
As we
but
all.
I remembered how I gave my life to him,
Mm-hmm.
because I had a car accident in 1995. I remember that I almost lost my life. And
Mm-hmm.
I remember when I was in the car, I looked up in heavens. I said, Lord, really, really, what is life? And then I realized that God had to be the most important person in my life.
Right.
And and from that point forward, my experience is begun.
Right.
And going to a church, for example, where it was very challenging, and going through a lot of turmoil. The Lord has done
Yeah. Yeah.
awesome work. Yeah.
So then let me ask you this, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Going through ministry, especially early on, you just get married, your husband is the apple of your eye, but he has this job, he has this church that's kind of calling to him. Did it feel like you were I don't want to use the term the other woman, but did you feel like at times you were fighting with the church for your husband in a sense of like it's like
All the
the things that you
time.
would want to do with him and spend time with him and stuff like that, but he has to go do this and he has to do that.
And certainly the type of a pastor that he was. He
Yeah.
was he's an evangelist at heart.
Yeah.
Believe you me, yes, he pastored the churches, but he's an evangelist at heart.
Yeah.
And I remember, people would call him left and right for him to go to preach and what have you. And
Mhm.
here I am alone with the kids.
Mm.
And sometimes, early on, sometimes you kind of resent it a bit. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, you
Yeah.
all alone with the kids. What do you do? And
Right,
they are
right.
young kids.
Yeah.
And it's like the whole thing falls upon you. You
Right.
have to go to work, you have to make sure that everything is okay. But yes, you do feel like that. Yeah, I
Mhm,
mean,
mhm.
don't be surprised,
Right.
that a pastor's wife, I mean, we have that controlled, appearance. I mean, people will
Yeah.
see that, oh, all is well. It's like, wow, you
Right,
ought to do
right,
this, you
right.
ought to do that, but you
Right,
know
right,
what you go through, your
right.
struggles and what have you.
So would you say, like, in those moments you had a
Mhm.
support system? Maybe these are close friends or family that kind of help you get through those times?
You know what? The Lord helped me through. And I will tell her name. When my mom passed away, the Lord granted me a surrogate mom. Her name
Mm,
was Genia Jean.
mhm,
Genia knew my mom, and she knew my mom when my mom was pregnant with me.
mm,
And Genia just adopted me as her daughter.
right.
And Genia really, you know, she offered me strength. She offered me support,
Mhm,
and she
mhm,
offered me love.
mhm.
And she accepted my children just like she accepted her own children.
Yeah,
And and I could call her at any time. I could drop at her house at any time.
yeah.
And I love Genia with all my heart. Genia was like I call her my second mom, and the Lord placed her in my life, at that moment. Yes.
So like for some of the people, and maybe we have some future or young pastors' wives who've just, gotten
Mhm.
into this, or maybe they're marrying someone who's very deep into their craft and they're kind of in a similar situation. Like, what are some of the things that Genia would say to you when you were kind of venting your frustrations that kind of helped you, come back down and level yourself?
Genia just listened.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
She listened and she did not judge.
Okay.
To her, as I was just her daughter, and
Right.
she accepted me as is. And I think I myself, I would, if I would want to be a mentor to one young pastor's wife, that's what I would want to be to them,
Mm-hmm.
to let them vent their feelings without
Mm-hmm.
judging them, and
Mm.
offer them that um I don't want to say the word secrecy, but you don't divulge
That
their
kind of safe place.
it stays in place. I
Mhm.
know Gina didn't go to people and talk about me or stuff like that.
Right.
I was her Juliet. I was her daughter.
Mm.
And that's what I would want to be. And she was an older lady.
Mhm.
And when the Apostle Paul, I know, taught, you know, kind of advised that the older ladies be mentors to the younger ladies, I think that the younger ladies should look for an older person that is wise and kind
Mm.
to be
Mhm.
their mentors, so that some certain decision that you'll have to make, you don't have to be rushing your decision, but sometimes a person will calm down, look at it from the other side, look at it from this position,
Mhm.
don't overreact. and
Right.
and and that's what Gina did for me.
Mm. Now,
Yes.
when we talk about the older, wiser women kind of
Mhm,
giving advice and mentoring the younger one, do you
mhm.
feel like kind of in the way that the world is now with social media, with how people react, do you feel like there's still a connection that the older women can have, or do you feel like it's just too big of a culture gap, like they're just too different? Or do you see, like, from a distance where there's certain things you probably could say that would help this person even now, but maybe you don't do that because you don't have that relate. Like, do you still feel that there's enough similarities to still have relevant advice?
You know what, there are some things that are being there are certain benefit you could get from a relationship. It has to be on one.
Hmm, 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 hmm.
Like social media is okay. You can learn from other people, but that personal touch that you need, there's somebody to listen to you.
Yeah.
For the person to have a feel of who you are, your character, it's good to have that one-on-one
Mm.
relationship.
Right, right.
Social media is good. It could advise you. You can have like an idea of things on how to be, but that one-on-one, I
Mm.
think that's very important for your growth.
Got you, got you. All
That your
right,
growth.
so you newly married now. You have children at this point,
Hmm.
and your husband is very, very involved in the church to the point where now,
Hmm.
like you said, you're constantly feeling alone. But for
Hmm.
as long as I've known Pops, I've never seen him necessarily pull back from ministry. So, from
No,
my
never.
impression, right? So, from my impression, I wouldn't say there ever was a balance because it just seemed like he just was always like gung ho church push push push. So, how did you how did you accept the lack of balance? Like how did you manage that? Because some people would say, "All right, it's me or
Uh-huh.
this," and they kind of make the person pull back from their calling or from what they feel led to. But in a sense, I feel like I can't even say in a sense. The reality is that you supported him and you gave him the space to continue to push forward into his calling, his love. So
Mhm.
how did you manage that internally? How do you even
That's
do that?
that's a very, 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 very good question. My gosh, yes, you do know how to ask questions. I
I'm
gotta say
trying.
this.
I'm trying.
That was a very tough decision.
Hmm.
I remember one day thinking, I said, Lord, this is kind of rough on me. So you're just gonna have to do something for me. You're gonna be my husband. You're gonna be my everything. You're gonna be my mom. You're gonna be my dad. You're gonna be my everything. And for some reason, the Lord put in my heart a peace that surpasses all understanding.
Mm.
When Ronald came home, that was joy.
Right.
But when he was not home, I was happy as well. It's
Mm.
not like a giddy, like ha 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 ha.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But I was content within myself. I don't know if that makes sense. I was
Yeah, yeah.
content. And I didn't feel the need to complain or to do this
Right.
or that. Okay. When he was home, that was fine. When we did things, I mean, okay, that was fine. But but I had accepted it. That's who he is. He loves to go around, he loves to preach the gospel. Let him go ahead and do this. And that's what I did. I just let him be.
Mm.
I just let him be, and
Right.
and I have accepted it. I chose not to complain about it. And one
Listen,
thing
that's
more
amazing.
also, one good thing also, the Lord has given me the chance to help others as well. And because
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
was busy doing the
Right.
work of the Lord, I remember I got involved in children ministry. The Lord prompted me to do it.
Mm.
And for some reason, once I got involved in children ministry, I was very consumed myself too. And
Mm.
and it was very important ministry to me.
So
Yes.
let me ask you this then. Did it
Hmm.
make it easier
Hmm.
to adjust to the lifestyle as a pastor's wife when you now were involved in ministries in the same church
Oh
as him?
yes,
Like, did it become a lot easier now?
it is. Oh
Mm-hmm.
yes. You don't have time to think. You don't have to think about your woes and your I wish I could, or whatever, whatever. You just
Mm-hmm.
do the work of the Lord yourself too. And then
Mm-hmm.
for some reason, the person could give you advice just like you give them advice, and it's
Mm-hmm.
like it becomes, you know, it was very good for me to
Yeah.
be involved in ministry as well. You know, excuse
So
me.
okay, so now we've evolved
Mhm.
from you weren't as active in church when you first get married, you feel alone, but now you're a lot more involved in church. You're
Yes.
in
Hmm.
children's ministry, you're doing this. So now you're going to church with him. You guys are the same place. So it's better, it's improved. But then
Yes.
now, and I think we were talking about this off camera too. I was curious and I was asking you about, okay, now you're in this situation where your husband, he's young, he's attractive, in a sense he's popular, he has power to a certain extent. So of course that makes him a target, that makes him something that other women are looking at. And so now you, of course, naturally, you being the wife, you kind of are put in positions now where women of the church are naturally introducing themselves to you, but some of them start to have ulterior motives. So you got any experiences that you could share with us in that sense where like you thought this person was a friend, but it actually really wasn't, and then you kind of started to learn how to discern who was really for you and who was just trying to get close to you to try to get closer to your husband to kind of, the entrampment, you know. And I say this with a disclaimer. What I mean,
Mhm.
Pops, when I was in Baptiste, as far as I know, is one of the cleanest
Uh-huh.
guys on the block that I know. Like I've never heard, seen any shifty, shady behavior. And I've seen many horrible stuff when it comes to pastors. But that dude, as far in regards to that, and he ain't never take a L from what I know. So knowing that, he
Mhm.
was clean, how did you manage, women that would kind of come up to you trying to be your friend when they were really trying to prey upon, your relationship?
You know something, Asel? I never worried about that.
Mm.
And I never made a point for me to worry about it. You know, I remember once there was a lady, I think that she, I can talk because she passed away.
Mhm.
But I remember she came to my house and everything, and she wanted to do this or that, whatever, whatever. So I felt that she had ulterior motives. I told Ron, please, just watch out, okay? Just
Mhm.
watch out. And then, and for some reason, yes, she tried to do many things. She wanted to do things for me. She wanted to do things for Ron and what have you. But you know what? It all died off. I I don't know. I never paid attention to that.
Mm.
I don't know why. Maybe my attitude also kind of um I don't I really I
Well,
remember
could
once.
we theorize and say that it was
Mhm.
like the fact that you just knew your husband wasn't that kind of person, or it was your faith in God, or it's just something I was just like, you know what, I'm not worried about that.
It had nothing to do with my husband. It
Mm-hmm.
had to do with I think my attitude. I don't know why I never worried about that.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember earlier on, but it wasn't well, I don't want to be so specific for people to know exactly that I'm talking about them. But I remember when we first got into a church, and then that lady came to me, says, "Oh, Juliet, and she's, can I give him a hug?" And I said, "Sure, baby, go ahead, give him a hug. It's public property. Go ahead. It's for everybody." And she wanted, she give him a hug and everything. But my attitude, I guess, really disarmed everything because I was like matter of fact. I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't like um grabby,
Or
touchy, being
territorial.
jealous, making a scene. To me,
Right.
that was not necessary.
Right.
And I think that maybe in my heart I knew that God had my back, whatever it is,
Mm-hmm.
you know. Yeah. I I never really worried. I don't know why, but I never did.
No, listen. I'll definitely say that, in
Hmm.
combination with your demeanor and trust in God, you were definitely blessed with one of the good ones. So, I think everything I God just aligned it perfectly because, unfortunately, there are many other wives who, have married men in ministry, pastors, etc., who have very, very different stories. But, I'm very glad that that wasn't your case. Um, but so
Hmm.
I guess in your situation, you never really felt, you never really had to take precautions like you were saying because you didn't feel the need to do something.
You know what? Come to think of it, going back, I remember taking everything to the Lord. And for some reason, the Lord had a way to take care of things.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that makes sense to you.
Yeah.
I remember, okay, my attitude. Okay, I remember once um, I was in a van, I remember, and I was sitting up front, and Ronald was the one driving. But for some reason, I think one of the kids had some issue, and I went in the back with the kids, and there was that other lady that came, and that lady, I told her, go ahead, you can sit up front. It's not a big deal. But as soon as I got to the church, because we were at somebody's house, that woman comes and says, Madam Pastor, be careful, because that lady is sitting in front of your husband, and she's this, and that. I said, no, 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 no. I was in the back with him. Everything is okay. People
Mhm.
were watching, watching one on and do whatever.
Right, right.
But, I kept everything calm, and I
Mhm.
trusted the Lord, and whatever it was, the Lord took care of it for me,
Mm.
you know? Yeah.
So let's talk about that. How do you like for me, because you already know how I am. Like, I consider people's perspectives and feelings, but I don't really let that manage or dominate my life or decide what direction I'm gonna go in. I'm gonna just, the only person's opinion I'm worried about is God's, and as long as He's cool with what I'm doing, I'm gonna just do my thing. But I
Hmm.
know, you growing up, you were in a very different environment, very different culture at that time, and so like how does a young lady just married with children, already dealing with the challenges of being married to a pastor's wife, also deal with the constant scrutiny, like everybody watching everything that you're doing, everybody having something to say, whether you're doing this or that, what you wear, what you dress, are you at church on time, did you like, how are you dealing with all of this? Because I'm pretty sure, because before you got married, did you have that type of scrutiny before you got married?
Yes and no.
Okay.
Because my dad was such a strict, he was an elder at the church. He was such a strict person, and everybody look at his girls.
Mm.
Other girls had this, but I never paid attention to. I never paid attention to people.
Do you feel like it was
I
the
mean,
same, or it got worse when you got married?
oh, it got worse.
Mm.
And I remember, and they watched me for everything. And I remember there was that older lady that came to me and says, "Oh, you don't come to church on time. Oh, this or that." But they never asked me how was it with me and the kids, and how da 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 da.
Yeah.
Oh, and she says, "Oh, I don't understand. You always sit in the back. You don't sit on the front,
Yeah.
or because, excuse me, um, you ought to be part of the lay ministry activities. You ought to be part of the Sabbath school thingy, da da da, and doing this and everything." And I just stay calm, calm as calm can be. I said, "Oh, okay." I never disrespected them, but I listened,
Mm-hmm.
and what the Lord had put in my heart, and that's what I did. you know I'm a naturally shy person. I don't like to be upfront. I don't
Mm-hmm.
like to do all these things, and it wasn't me to go and do all these things, to be in charge, to be in da 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 da. No, I'm a calm person, and I stay in the back. I work in the back, you know and stuff like that. Scrutiny, oh my gosh, they'll watch everything that I do, how I got dressed up, and that's all. Sometimes you have to be politically correct. You say
Mm-hmm.
what you need to say. You have to be careful of what you say, and sometimes some people act weird toward you, or kind of,
Mm.
I don't want to say the word mistreat, but
Yeah.
kind of thing, they put you down, and you have to know who you are, because
Right,
people
right,
put
right,
you down a lot.
right.
Oh, look at you. Or that lady, I remember saying that, oh my gosh, she's not a good pastor's wife, she's not like the pastor's wife that I
Ooh.
know. And all these things, i I just give it to the Lord. I refuse to let it affect me.
Mm.
I
So
refuse
you
to.
you you would never say that you never had a like that. You never reached like that almost breaking point where you just like enough was enough. You never got to that place.
Yes, one day I did.
Ooh.
One day I did. But the Lord always had my back.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
remember that day. Um, I mean, I was taking care of, because the church was growing, and we had about I had about 100 children, that I had to work with and what have you. And every child is different. Every child
Yeah.
has a personality,
Yeah.
and I'm dealing with that. And I don't know who came and said something, like they came and said, put down. And I remember that day, I was, I reached my breaking point, and I was about to say something that was not too kosher. And I'm about to say, Ronald, you and your church, leave me alone. I'm out.
The clean
I
version, yes.
remember it was a Saturday afternoon. And as I'm about to say this, and there's an audience of people, and I think that he would have made the evening news.
Wow.
As I'm about to say this, I burst out crying,
Oh,
and I could not stop myself. I cried and I cried, and I slowly left the church and went home.
oh,
And for some reason that I was calm and everything was okay. But I
mm,
was gonna make a fool of myself that day. I was gonna make a scene.
mm,
And everybody knows me. I'm very patient, very, very, very patient. And I try to keep things bottled up and
yeah.
everything. But that day, I was going to blow up.
Wow.
And the Lord allowed me to just go home and
Right.
take the steam off.
And so
Yeah,
do you feel like that experience kind of taught you like, okay, when I'm getting to that place, I need to decompress, find a thing.
decompress.
Okay. Yeah.
Hmm.
So how
And
did your husband react in that moment when he got home?
I don't think he knew.
Mm,
I don't think he knew. I told him about it, and that's how the Lord allowed everything to go. Because if I'd made that scene, trust you me, that was going to disrupt the church kind of thingy.
mm,
Because I was very angry at that time. I was
right.
very, very angry. But for some reason I cried, and I just left. I saw it's very, very, very hard sometimes.
Yeah.
And sometimes the comment that people make to you or what have you, when you know that you're helping people, and
Mm,
and as you're helping them, they use it to destroy you.
right, right.
you know and
So
this is
it's
something
like not to interrupt you, but how do you find yourself continuing to show grace to the church that's taking away your husband, the church that's always constantly scrutinizing everything that you do? It's like, you know, yes, we all know God, but God and church, like I always say, are two very different things. And so here you have these people who, I mean, one can argue it just feels like they're taking so much from you, and they're not really showing the gratitude that they should be showing. They're not really showing the love or the patience that they should be showing. And it's like you're always in this position where you have to be your best self constantly, and it remains to be like this big challenge. So it's like, how do you keep that going? Like, I know we say it's God that kept you through, and I 100% believe that.
Ansel,
Yeah.
I must tell you this. These things happened early on, and believe you me, and that's where the mentor comes in.
Mm-hmm.
I could always go to Genia,
Ah, it goes back to her.
and she used to call me the nickname. I mean, actually, your dad and my and Genia, they know they use this nickname. If she would say, "Yeah, chérie, calmez-vous. Gardez sa petite main. Fais attention." Like, just be careful. Just this,
Mm-hmm.
look at it from that angle. Look at
Right.
this from this angle. And then
Right.
your attitude, what does it go in? What is the advantage of the disadvantage of that?
Right.
And then that would keep me centered. Yeah.
So, oh, I love that. I love that to keep
Hmm.
yourself focused, keep yourself focused on the main goals, and
Hmm.
there's a few more things I wanted to ask you. So now being married, to a pastor, strong ministry, he's praying and doing all these wonderful things, etc., etc.
Hmm.
Did you did you find yourself at first kind of living your relationship or your personal relationship with God through him, or did you always have it separate, or did at first like it was one way and then it developed to another?
You know what? It could not be through him because, how would I say that? No, it had to be my own personal
Mhm.
relationship. It has to be your own personal relationship
Mhm.
because when the person does things that you're not agreeing with, you're gonna
Yeah.
be feel so angry
Right.
that is going to affect you.
Right.
It has to be your own relationship
Right.
um, with the Lord because imagine Ronald was everywhere, going everywhere, praying, going here and that and what have you.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
But it had it had to be my own relationship.
Mm.
And you know what? The Lord blessed me with siblings
Mm.
that are so wonderful. I guess maybe people know them in such way, whatever.
Mhm.
But they all brought something into my life that is very important.
Mhm.
My sister Junan.
Yeah, yeah.
She has, some people view her as this, and that. But let's take an intimate look at her the way she is. Junon is one of the most loving people.
Mhm.
And I'm not saying that because she's my sister.
Right.
But when you're down, she said, "Come on, girl, let's pray, Juliet. Let's pray.
Right, right.
Let's do a 7 days." I have my sister Judy. My sister Judy has her own personality. And there's that other void that she feels in my life. My sister Janine is a voice of reason. Come on. I
Right.
would call her an attorney by nature.
Right, right,
And
right.
Janine will say this, and that. And also I have my brother. My brother is the funny dude. But he's he's not attached to church, and that's another thing, a
Right, right,
story in
right.
itself. But he makes me laugh.
Right.
So I had all this, you know. My sisters were constantly praying with me and for me.
Mm. So it
That was
kinda
important.
kept you.
So I'm talking about, of course, remember I had my mentor, but Gina
Yeah.
eventually did pass away, you
Mhm.
know. But I had my siblings, and also I had few prayer partners, and I have one. Her name was Gladys. Gladys passed away, and of course, your mom. Your mom
Mm.
is also my sister,
Mhm.
because and she, we prayed together and everything. Also, I have other friends that were, that are helping, and they'll give you an advice here and there and what have you.
Right.
But and
From what it sounds like you're saying, you just had a really strong kinda support system that
system
you
base, I call
never.
it the base.
Right,
Your
got you.
base. You've
So
got to have the base.
that's
Remember
right.
in one of your podcasts, and I'm going beside the point, and
Uh,
you said something that really, really touched me when you said, talking about your married life. And when you said that sometimes you feel angry in there, and then there are some things that you feel like expressing, but you don't know who to express it to.
right, yeah,
But
yeah.
you'll have that person that you can express it to, and
Yeah,
who's not
yeah.
going to judge you, and is not going to use your words against you,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
at that time
yeah.
we were just venting.
Yeah, yeah.
So now I'm fortunate as well to have, my sisters, and some of my friends that I can vent to, you know,
Mm.
without
So
being
so so
judged.
2 so 2 more before we go.
Okay.
Um, and so now you've kind of been in a season where
Mhm.
pops has been sick for a long time, off and on, hospitals in and out, sleepless nights, physically grueling, spiritually, mentally grueling. How have you been able to navigate that situation, find time to smile, find time to still even be happy with God? Because most people in that situation would have just got pissed off, been like, this man gave you so much, and now the state that he's in. And yet, you've never, as we say, in Job's wife, you've never cursed God at all. You've I've seen you carry that situation with grace, even though there's definitely been some tougher moments for sure. But you've been right by your husband's side. Like, what? How are you doing that? And I asked that also too in a culture where now in relationships, as soon as there's a
Mhm,
sign of trouble or as soon as something is not going on the way that's supposed to go,
mhm.
people are throwing the relationship apart. And yet here you are showing resilience in the face of a lot of calamity.
You know what? I remember when Ronald started not feeling well at all.
Mhm.
And I remember I begged him to go to the hospital and he would not. But finally his daughter got him to go. And that was the beginning of everything.
Mm,
And I heard, and I'm looking at him and I'm feeling that there's something that is definitely wrong with him, but he's not seeing it. And some of the doctors who went seeing, but I remember I said to the Lord, Lord, I'm a scaredy cat.
mm,
I'm not strong. I'm claiming Matthew 11, verse 28. I'm going to give you my burden and you're going to give me yours. We're going to
mm,
do the swapping, Lord, because I can't anymore. I can't. I
right.
cannot do this. And I remember that day, I'm sitting down and I'm saying, what's wrong with me? How come I'm not worried? Because I am naturally, how do you say that? Anxious. I'm
Anxious.
an anxious
Yeah.
person. And I'm thinking, why am I not anxious? And I realized that the Lord was just carrying me through.
Mm,
And then I remember when one of the doctors told me that, she says, he he can go for hospice care because he qualifies for hospice care.
wow.
Because the way it is, he can die at any time. Because the way his
Right.
heart is and everything else is, he can die anytime. And I said, okay. And I remember Ronald wanted to go someplace in Tennessee where we went for natural medicine and what have you. But he had a good cleansing and do whatever. But we came to the church, and I remember I was sitting in church and I heard the voices to me. But I heard it in my native language,
Right.
but I'll translate it. He says, woman, you're gonna let your husband die in Florida? You're not gonna do anything? And I said, oh Lord, but what do I do? Remember, I am a very shy person.
Yeah.
I'm very I
Yeah.
I usually like to be in the back or whatever.
Mm,
And I said, God, okay, you're gonna show me what I need to do. And then and for some reason that guy says to me, okay, by the way, Sister Baptiste, I'm winning that car for you. Da 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 da. And I picked up Ronald. I put him in a car. The Lord give me strength. I remember my oh my God, he died now, Widori. He called me all through the way down. The Lord give me strength to drive 24 hours
mm,
to Massachusetts.
wow.
And I brought Ronald to Massachusetts. As soon as I got there and I said, Lord, tell me, what do I do? I didn't know if I should go left or right. The Lord led me into what I needed to go, to get insurance for him. The Lord led me to a doctor that became
Mm,
like, oh my gosh, he was a cardiologist that became like a attending physician.
right.
And that's the way then we learned that Ronald had liver failure.
Yeah.
It's called relating to NASH, and he also, you remember, he was sick in 2001.
Right.
He had five bypasses done to his heart,
Mhm.
and I remember, oh oh my God, there is so much. And then that doctor referred me. Oh well, when he had the bypasses, that's when they also discovered that he has something called sarcoidosis, and it
Mhm.
affected his liver, part of his stomach, and also his lungs.
Yeah.
But you know what? And of course, he ended up having liver failure. But to make a long story short,
Mhm.
the Lord allowed him to get a liver transplant,
Right.
and that's how he became. better. And we call him Lazarus. And when you have some time, I can go through the journey
Yeah, of
with you
course,
as
of
I
course.
as I went through it and what have you. I remember a lot of people asking me, "Oh my goodness, how you need to be commended to do this and that." But you know what? I kept remembering I got married for better and for worse,
That's right. That's
in
right.
sickness
That's right.
and in health.
That's right. That's
It's
right.
a vow. Marriage is a vow. It's not something that you take lightly. Oh my gosh, I'm so in love with this guy. Da, da,
Right,
da. But
right,
what
right,
are you going to do when things go bad? You have to realize that you took a vow.
right.
And you know what? And the Lord has given me strength. Sometimes do I feel discouraged? Do I feel like, oh, I need a break? Yes, of course. But the Lord
Mm-hmm.
gives me strength to go on.
Mm.
You know? And
All right. So last one,
uh-huh.
you who has all this wisdom and all this experience for the young ladies, the women who are watching right now, who are listening, who are
Mhm.
married to someone or just got married to someone in ministry, whether it
Mhm.
be a elder, pastor, whatever it is,
Mhm.
what is advice that you could give them that they could start to apply now to set them up for success?
I thought there's no other way to go. You have to go to your Creator, to your Redeemer, to your God.
Mm,
And He said that trust Him. He will lead you in the way you ought to go.
mm,
He will grant you wisdom, knowledge, and understanding.
mm,
He will grant you the strength to accept yourself the way you are.
mhm.
Because remember, we're not perfect beings. We
Right,
make
right.
mistakes. I made lots of mistakes.
Yeah.
Yes, I have. But you know what? The Lord accepts me and loves me. And what
Mm,
I would tell them, hey, make sure that you have that relationship with the Lord. And and if you feel yourself too weak to be on your own, have somebody you can trust that can help you through
that's
this
right.
process.
That's
And that's
right.
very, very, very important.
Mm,
Find a prayer partner and somebody who's wise. And the Lord will lead you to the right person,
that's
you
right.
know, to help you through this journey. Yes, he will.
Mm.
He
Thank
will
you.
never fail you.
Thank you so, so much. Listen, it has been a joy talking with you. And see, podcast was painless and easy. Everybody, she was so worried about this. But as you guys can see, it went smoothly. We almost had, what, 45-hour change like that.
Yeah,
Smooth
I
and
mean,
easy, just like I told her. She was making such a
well,
big deal about this.
thank you. You're a good host. That's what made
Nah,
it
I
easy.
try, I try.
It was a
But
joy talking to you. And by the
listen,
way,
I
you
hope you
are my
guys got
son in
some
love.
I hope you guys got something out of this and really enjoyed this. More to come, more to come. It has been fun. I love you, beautiful people. Till next time on an episode of Cell Speaks. Peace.